Hello, dear friends. Welcome to another episode of Pray Fast for God. Wherever you are right now, maybe you're cozied up on your favorite chair with a mug of steaming coffee, or perhaps you're in the car watching the world zip by. I'm glad you're here, ready to explore the art of spiritual discipline with me. Now, you might be wondering, what is spiritual discipline? Picture it like this. Imagine a young artist with just a blank canvas and a vision. Each brushstroke, careful and deliberate, brings the image in their mind into reality. Spiritual discipline is like those brushstrokes, a series of thoughtful actions and practices that shape and bring clarity to our spiritual lives. It's not about rigid rules or joyless routines, but about creating space for beauty, growth, and connection to God. Let's dive in with a personal story of mine. I remember a time when I felt like life was nothing but noise. My days were filled with work, errands, and endless notifications buzzing from my phone. The clamor left little room for peace, let alone spiritual growth. It was like being in a crowded market filled with shouts and smells of food, all enticing but overwhelming. My soul was hungry for something more, something quieter and deeper. I knew I needed to make a change. It started simply enough. I decided to set aside 10 minutes each morning for prayer and reflection. At first, it felt awkward, like trying to write with my non-dominant hand, or like tasting an unfamiliar dish with delicate flavors hard to place. But with time, those 10 minutes became a cherished ritual, a quiet harbor in the storm of my daily life. This leads us to a key aspect of spiritual discipline: consistency. Just as the sun rises faithfully each morning, making time for regular practices helps us cultivate a steady heart. You might start with prayer, meditation, or reading scripture. It doesn't have to be complex. The most profound truths are often found in the simplest moments. Imagine sitting under a broad tree, its leaves rustling softly in the breeze. Sometimes just being present is enough to open our hearts to God's whispers. Another important part of spiritual discipline is openness. It's about being willing to listen, not just talk. When I think of this, I remember learning to sail. There was a day when the wind died, leaving the boat adrift on a glassy sea. Frustrated, I learned that sometimes you must wait, watch the horizon, and let the stillness speak. In our spiritual lives, being open means accepting that not every prayer is answered immediately, and that sometimes the answers come in unexpected ways. These practices might seem small on their own, much like individual notes in a song, but when strung together, they create a melody that carries us through the ups and downs of life. Discipline, in this sense, is not about perfection, but about progress and presence. It's knowing that even when we stumble or feel lost, we can return to these practices to guide us back to the path. In my journey with spiritual discipline, I've come to understand the value of community. We're not meant to walk this journey alone. Think of a campfire shared with friends, the warmth and light growing with each person who joins. Sharing our experiences, struggles, and triumphs with others can encourage and strengthen our resolve. Whether it's a prayer group, a spiritual mentor, or a community like this one, having companions on the journey is a blessing. Finally, it's important to remember that spiritual discipline is not about attaining some lofty spiritual ideal. It's about drawing closer to God, discovering His presence in the mundane and the miraculous, in laughter and in tears. It's about finding a deeper sense of who we are and our purpose, much like a seed growing, unseen at first, but inevitably reaching toward the light. As we wrap up today, let's take a moment to pause. Imagine standing on a hilltop as dawn breaks, the first light stretching across the landscape, illuminating everything in its path. In the same way, spiritual discipline can illuminate our lives, helping us see with clarity and purpose. Wherever you are on your journey, know that each step, each small act of devotion is part of a mosaic that reveals the beauty of a life lived in faith. Let's continue to encourage one another, to be patient with ourselves, and to trust that with each faithful attempt, we are drawing nearer to God and the abundant life He desires for us. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, may your path be blessed, your heart be open, and your spirit be filled with peace.